Bonefish.
All right. We're back with Bonefish. Christian here. I'm joined, as always, by my pal Justin. What's up, Justin?
Hey, not much.
Did you have a good Halloween?
We did dress up and take my son for his first trick-or-treat. We were Jurassic Park. I was Dr. Alan Grant. My wife was Dr. Sadler, I think. Is she Dr. Sadler, Laura Dern's character?
Laura Dern is how, yeah.
And
nice.
I think it's Dr. Sadler.
The button up.
She had the button up, like salmon-colored shirt with the khaki shorts and like the blossom.
Iconic.
The blossom style bucket hat. And
then Wes was the giant pile of Triceratops shit.
He's a giant pile of shit. He was a baby dinosaur.
Adorable. What are we talking? What kind of dinosaur?
I think it was a Triceratops.
Raptor?
It was like a little Triceratops. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we're continuing on with our little Halloween mini-series, although Halloween is now behind us. It's only just behind us, so we're sneaking in one more episode here.
Some of us are always spooking, so even if spooking season is officially done.
And, it's getting cooler here in LA. We obviously, we just had daylight savings. We fell behind.
Yeah.
Chatting with Jeremy Hyman today, multi-instrumentalist, known primarily as a drummer. He is one of the only, if not maybe the only, non-core Animal Collective member to tour with them significantly. He was the drummer on the Painting With tour. And then, of course, he was one of the three members in Avey Tare's power trio, Slasher Flicks. He used to play in the band Ponytail, who we've discussed on this podcast before. He's toured with Deacon, and he does his own solo music and has a new record coming out that we touch on a bit as well. Before we get into some Bonefish Recs, maybe we could just chat a bit about the Slasher Flicks record. I've dug this record for a long time. I think it's up there among my favorite AV releases.
It's a very Christian record.
You've said that multiple times now. Why do you?
Have I? It's just like high energy. Like, I know you're a drummer. There's great drumming. I don't know if people have picked up on this, but I feel like I'm the more mellow music listener in terms of my palette, my mood board, and you're kind of the more high energy.
Yeah, that's fair.
In your tastes. Nobody's right or wrong, obviously. But isn't it your favorite non-AC AV release?
Yeah, it is.
Nice. I feel like Slasher Flicks kind of is in the Centipede universe in terms of like the energy of the music.
Really like synth bass heavy.
Yeah.
Darker kind of palette.
A little more live feel, a little more rock feel. And like I said, I kind of didn't give this album its due when it first came out, but I remember we were driving around and you were playing it one time and then revisiting it recently. It's really grown on me.
And excellent artwork too, by the way. I love the little like wood grain.
Yeah.
With the like burned demonic angel in it or whatever. Right. But yeah, Strange Colors, The Outlaw, Blind Babe, Ascender, and of course Little Fang, now a Halloween standard.
Blind Babe I really like.
All amazing tracks.
Catchy was Contagious, kind of the nonsensical chanting chorus. That one reminds me of like a Centipede Herd song or something. Yeah,
super fun to hear Dave in a different context other than AC and other than just his solo stuff with these two other, very formidable musicians, Angel Deradoorian from 30 Projectors and Jeremy, who's such a sick drummer. I mean, Animal Collective fans who've seen him know. But his drumming on Slasher House is really incredible as well. And 2014 is when it came out. It came out in like the spring, right? Which is this is such like a obviously Halloween inspired album.
Yeah, it came out I think in April 2014. So we're just a little bit over the 10-year anniversary, which is nuts to think.
Yeah, I have sort of similar to some of my experiences with Animal Collective Records. A lot of my memories around this band and this music are centered around a live show that I was able to catch. And it was before the record came out by like several months. I think they had just announced, Avey Tare has a new trio, Enter the Slasher House. It was sort of billed as like a indie rock supergroup. And so I got to see them play at the Echo, tiny venue in LA with really no idea of what to expect. And yeah, I was really blown away. I'm sure they played Little Fang at the show, but it definitely didn't stand out. The rest of the record is so kind of, like we said, higher energy and a little more chaotic that when Little Fang was released later as the first single, I was a little bit like, what? Like that is not what I remember the show being like. As we discussed in the talk with Jeremy, it is definitely like an outlier on the record, but
it is definitely the single. Like it has such single energy. Like
for sure.
I think I mentioned, it reminds me of this one Lindsey Buckingham song called "Go Insane." Two kinds of trouble in this world. It also reminds me of like the Ghostbusters theme or something. Like, and there's something strange in the neighborhood. Like, I feel like it's just, this, yeah.
Totally.
Fun.
I mean, that like high pitched guitar, like ding.
Yeah, kind of funky
haunting.
Too, like funky too, but like, yeah, it's great. It's
spooky dancing.
Yeah, exactly.
It did get Best New Track when it was released as a single on good old P-Fork.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, probably the poppiest Avey song that exists. One could argue. Should we get into some recommendations?
Yeah.
I have been digging this new record by this artist called Photay. He's a sort of electronic composer guy. He does sort of inventive, rhythmic, electronic music. And his new record is called Windswept, and it's like wind-themed, sort of.
Ooh.
It's super fun. There's a song called Derecho, which I'm going to play a bit of.
To the right.
To the right.
Derecho? Like...
En Espanol, yeah.
Is it right or left? I might have confused them.
I'm pretty sure it's right. I think izquierda is left.
Yeah, cool.
But also, apparently, Derecho is a widespread, long-lived, straight-line windstorm that is associated with a fast-moving group of severe thunderstorms, known as a mesoscale convective system. So I guess it also means a wind thing. Anyway, I've been really enjoying this album. I think he played, I think Maral, friend of the pod, opened for him in LA recently. I wasn't able to catch it, but it just came out this year. Check it out. Photay.
Nice, dude.
What you got, Justin?
I'm going to stay on my Slavic music beat and...
Hell yeah.
Been listening to this Slovenian band. It's like a trio. I could be pronouncing it wrong, but it's Širom. Sirom. Širom. I guess you could call them like Slavic psychedelic folk or something. They play like handmade instruments, violas, ukuleles, kalimbas, harps, bunch of other instruments that I've never heard of. I think there's a hurdy-gurdy in there. It sounds like a hurdy-gurdy for Time Skiff's era fans out there. And yeah, like they just like make amazing soundscapes. There's not really any singing. They just kind of jam long songs. It feels like, I don't know, like you're in the fucking Game of Thrones. I don't know. I've never actually seen Game of Thrones, so that could be a bad reference.
No, 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 no. Medieval psychedelia.
Yeah. It has that kind of quality to it. This album,
nice.
I'm listening to. It's an album that came out within 2022. But I just discovered it. It's called The Liquefied Throne of Simplicity. Weird title, but the music rules. Yeah, definitely check it out. I feel like it's good fall/winter music. The Liquefied Throne of Simplicity. Cool. No, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. Check us out on Patreon. Bonefish. Is it Bonefish Pod or just Bonefish on Patreon?
Bonefish Pod.
Bonefish Pod on Patreon. Bonefish Pod on Instagram. We love posting.
Yep. Yeah, without any further ado, let's get on over to our convo with Jeremy Hyman. I've known about you for, I feel like, a kind of long time, and it's great to finally talk to you, because I feel like in the past, like, several decades almost, I've seen you pop up in, like, various bands, and I first found out about you and Ponytail because I was at Pitchfork Festival as a much younger man back in 2009, I think. I was just at one of the stages, I think I was waiting for Waves or something like that. And Ponytail played, and I had never heard you guys, but was just instantly a fan, was like blown away. And I was like, wow, these guys are so much fun. And it was kind of one of my early exposures to like more experimental, like kind of crazier, like indie rock, I guess, or however you want to call it. But, and then, fast forward like 5 or 6 years, and then seeing Avey Tare's slasher flicks, and I was like, oh, there's that dude from Ponytail. And then like another time there, I feel like I was like at a festival somewhere, and I was like watching Deacon, and I was like, oh, there's that dude again. So I feel like you've popped up, various times in my life as a music fan. And over that time, I've just become a big fan of your drumming and like the energy that you bring to like all the projects you're a part of. And so stoked to be able to get to chat a bit with you today.
Thank you so much for saying all that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
A true utility guy. Does it all.
We're talking about slasher flicks today, but we thought it'd be cool to just talk about your music and your time with Animal Collective and what you're up to now. And I guess where should we start? I mean, I saw you in Ponytail, and then like slasher flicks say like, what had you been up to during that time? And like, what was Ponytail still going, or like what was that period of your life like?
So between,
I guess like, 2010 and like 2015, I guess.
Yeah. A lot happened in that time. In 2009, we used to say 2009.
Right.
Do you remember this thing called Boredom?
Boredoms, the Boredoms, right?
Yeah, in 2007, they did this insane drum project, performance in Brooklyn. And I was like, man, we all loved Boredoms. They were just this legendary band that, I did get to see them the year before, I think in 2006. And then in that year, I met Širom who was doing Soft Circle solo at that time. And we played a show with him, I think in Boston. Met him, had a really good time, kept in touch. He asked me to do Bodrum 88 in 2008. I was on tour, but I was asked, which was a bummer. And 2009 rolls around, and he asks again, and I'm like, yes, I'm all in. And that year, it was only going to be 9 drummers. And that kind of like tore my mind apart, because it was going to be a lot more intimate. And
right, that one was like inside, right? It was like an indoor performance, and the other ones were like outdoor, right?
Yeah, that's right. It was not just a one-off. It was 3 shows, and it was leading up to ATP in New York. So that happened in 2009, and then they really liked that configuration with, a bunch of drummers. I think it was the Boredoms core crew, myself, Širom, Butchie Fuego from a band at the time I think they had just broken up, but Pitter Pat, Kid Millions from Oneida, Zach Hill from Hella, and Death Grips.
Nice.
Actually, yeah, I remember we were in Japan and he was like, I have this new band called Death Grips, and he played it. And I was just like, this is crazy. I don't understand this at all. I was like, I don't even know what this is. And, I heard it. Then I think when the money started came out, I was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. This is awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
We did have a question from one of our listeners that saw one of your boa drum performances. He said that he saw Jeremy and Zach Hill play together at the Boredoms, and he was wondering if you had any stories about that or Hill in general. But you've already met that criteria. So
you told a pretty good one already.
I mean, I can say from my playing, I sat right next to him, and he's an amazing drummer, and I think that's pretty widely known. But I don't think most people know how loud he plays. I could barely hear myself over him. And I had a drum set. And those years where we were playing next to each other were like the most like endurance boot camp for my playing that I've ever had. And
wow.
I learned a lot from playing with him. And yeah, I think that's the main takeaway from playing with Zach.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember seeing I don't know if it's like a mini doc or something on Hella, but it's like a Hella show. They're opening for someone big or something, but it ends with Zach playing on this drum set and then shoving over a cymbal and then shoving over that drum, and by the end it's just him and the kick drum, and he's just boom, 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 1 foot.
Yeah.
Just totally
that
deconstructed.
Foot, he can do more with his right foot than most people can do with all 4 limbs. My relationship with Dan Deacon and his music around 2012, he had a new record called America, and he wanted to put together a band, kind of like a ripping band. And it was just going to be 2 drummers, synths, and him doing the rest of this.
That's what I saw, I think, at FYF, maybe 2012 or something.
I think you're exactly right. Yeah.
The double drummers was so insane. Yeah, it was sick.
Yeah, Kevin, I loved playing with Kevin. Kevin passed away a few years ago. And
no.
He's one of my...
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's a real tragedy, but I think about him all the time, and he really taught me how to play. I mean, I played with so many drummers in that time because of the Boredoms, but me and Kevin had this special relationship. I mean, if we were a comedy routine, he was my straight man. He let me go off the rails, and he was just always there to catch me. So that was happening. And I think that's when I met Dave in Baltimore in 2010. He and Angel moved there. And I think that Animal Collective had started working on a record on Centipede Hurts.
Sounds right. Yeah.
They were there, and I didn't know him. I knew Angel pretty well. We had toured together. I toured with Dirty Projectors a little bit.
Cool. Didn't know that.
Yeah. Dirty Projectors had played Ponytail's record release show for our first record, I think.
Wow. That's awesome.
And it was at that point, it was a 6-piece band or maybe 7-piece. And I don't know I can't remember if the record was called The Getty Address, but it was a lot more abstracted. And then we went and saw them at South by Southwest at this show, and it was like a 4-piece, and they were this psychotically good, like harmonizing rock band. And I met Angel just like standing in line for the bathroom. And we kept in touch a little bit.
Sick.
Yes. So that's sort of where I was in 2011, 12. There was a Boredom show in Tokyo or in somewhere in Japan, a festival. And Animal Collective was also playing. And, you know, being like from the same, you know, sort of like circle of people, I think we hung out a little bit more there. And I think they had moved to LA in that time period. And they caught me at a show, probably a Dan Deacon show out there. And I think we had dinner together, and we talked about this band. Dave had an idea for a band. So
nice.
That was sort of how it all began.
Yeah.
I know that was a lot of talking, but
no, that's great. I asked it an incredibly open-ended question, so that's great.
That's the work part of those 4 years of my life.
The CV.
Yeah. And this idea for the band, he proposes before you guys ever even played music together?
Yeah. I don't even know how many songs he had. I don't know if it was even going to be Slasher Flicks. I think he just had something in mind.
Nice.
That was a little... I had this power trio idea. And I think it wasn't until early 2013 when he sent me any demos. And that's sort of when I started thinking about it for real.
Nice.
It was a little weird though, because we planned out, we like had shows that there was an ATP that Deer Hunter did in the UK. And he was asked to play, and he wanted a band, this new band. And that was before we had played together. He had agreed to it.
That's
so
awesome.
we were planning this show before we had ever played.
Right on.
Nice. Pick the date and then figure out the rest in between. Well, I know we kind of started tipping into the Slasher Flick stuff a little bit, but before we go down that rabbit hole, I wanted to like chat about you and your current music stuff. You sent us some tracks before we chatted.
I dug it, man.
Some really cool music.
I liked it.
It's part of the upcoming album, or what? What's the story with the music?
Yeah, that's a record. I think it's most of the record, if not all of it. It'll be like a 12-inch, like an LP. And I think I'm going to put this one out myself. I was working with a label called Future Times for a while.
I saw some stuff on Bandcamp, yeah.
Yeah, and Andrew, who runs that label, does this project called Lifted with another super talented musician named Matt Papich, who used to make music under Cola and was in a band with Dustin called Ecstatic Sunshine a long time ago. But the music I'm working on now is what I've learned over the years. I don't know how to make music formally. I went to school for painting and just like to play drums and like to make music with people. And until around 2012 or 13, I didn't really think about making it at all by myself. But then I got really into it. It kind of became my studio practice. It kind of replaced visual art for me.
Oh,
and it's been, I love making music, and I just feel like I'm still such a forever beginner. But
I thought it sounded great. It was very much up my alley these days. I mean, I don't want to give too much.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that.
Yeah,
shit.
I mean, you've listened to our pod, so this is definitely up our alley. It's definitely got like synthiness, electronic, rhythmic. It sounds like, are you doing some of the like drum sensor stuff? Because like I saw that there's this video of you on YouTube doing the like, what's it called? Sunhouse, like drum sensor stuff.
Yeah.
Is there any of that in the mix or?
No.
Oh, okay.
That
I'm off.
I don't use the sensory percussion stuff early on when Talakal, the founder of that brand, I guess, or company.
Is that the dude who plays in Darkside now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I didn't make that connection because I knew you played those sensory drums, and later on I saw that he also plays those. So, okay, wow. Cool.
Yeah, I think again, this is circling back because it is all connected. I remember, I don't know what year, Kid Millions, who was playing in Boredoms at the time, he was like, hey, I can't do this drum sensor thing, but I recommended you. And I think I had just moved to New York, and I was like, great, sounds terrific. So I went to this studio, and it was a sensory percussion thing with like 5 drummers, and Nicholas Jar was there, and he had curated all the sounds.
Oh, okay.
And
tight.
And that's how I got introduced to that hardware. And it's so cool. It's so cool. And I think it's probably better. I mean, I have one of the triggers, like the early prototypes that's made out of like a maker plastic kind of thing. Like,
could you just explain sensory percussion? I mean, I'm a refined primitive musician, but what is like the sensory percussion thing?
I'll do my best. It's a drum trigger that, instead of a piezo element being, fired off by the actual vibration of the drum or the drum head, it's more like a guitar pickup. So you actually needed to put a little piece of like a sticky piece of metal on the drum head, or a mesh head if you felt like it. And the trigger doesn't contact the head. It just floats above it, kind of like a guitar pickup in a string. And the software, what's ingenious about the software is you train the software on the specific drum, and once it knows how the different areas of the drum resonate differently, you can assign different sounds. And
gotcha.
I think it went even a step further back then, where you could modulate between them depending on where you hit. It's really crazy. It's basically like turning a drum into a MIDI, tool.
Yeah, MIDI trigger. Yeah, that video of you that's online doing it is like, I mean, it sounds crazy. You're like hitting your high tom, I think, and it's like shooting off these like kind of pitched like laser sounds. But I mean, it sounds, each hit is like kind of unique in the way that like each drum hit sort of is. But yeah, crazy. But you did not do that for the album.
I didn't. I didn't do that for the album. And there's so much drum triggering I've done over the years where I also didn't do it. I just never had a laptop to take around with me. At the time, I think you needed a laptop. It might be iPad possible now, but just the gear I had, it wasn't going to work for me. I preferred my like electronic setup to be more, I guess, simple, clunky.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wondered about that stuff, the triggering stuff, because like even the way that you don't control like the pitch of some of the notes is just set on some predetermined arc. I was like, this is cool, but I can see how like in a way it kind of removes some agency from like the drummer. Like you're controlling the hits and stuff, but like, yeah, you're kind of just triggering this MIDI note. I mean, I'm sure there's ways to like control it and make it more, I guess, artistically expressive, but I guess all that to say, it makes sense to me that you would want like a more like controllable, I guess, like simple thing. But yeah,
actually, to give Talakal his due, I would say the opposite. It was too amazing and too flexible. And it really is incredible. And to your point, I actually did want something that was less. I wanted something that just was like dead simple.
Yeah.
Kind of, and to just maybe how this relates back to my music, the tools I use are really basic, and I'm usually trying to downgrade or downsample, I should say, or sort of like get into the machine as much as possible with that stuff. So like the sampler that I use for the music that you heard is It's called an Akai Remix 16, and it only holds 16 seconds of memory. But a lot of the textures on that record are made by pitching things down really far and then resampling them. And I really like that you can kind of pull apart the digital waveform, and you get these artifacts from each machine has different artifacts. Even Ableton has its own artifacts when you start to peer in to the sound. So all this is to say, sensory percussion was not used on the record. There are some real drum sounds. I'll record percussion sometimes, or
I think some of some of the tonal stuff just sounded so like naturally rhythmic. Maybe that's why I thought that.
No matter how you may deny it, you'll always show your flag.
So what is your artistic approach kind of these days, or with this upcoming record? Is like where do things start? How do you go about it?
Oh man. I just try and sit in my studio and make sound until something pops out. And then I'll just sort of go from there. A lot of this stuff takes a long time for me to make. I find it difficult to put chords together or melodies or really any of it. The drums are equally hard for me to write. So it comes together really slowly, and I kind of iterate. So if I do find something, if I sit down and I find something that is good enough for me to want to listen to again and I record it, usually the next time I open it up, I'll do something like save it as like 1.1.
Right. Yeah. Right.
If it makes it to 1.1, that means I could work on it. Nice. And it'll go like that every time. Like even if I just sort of, change the EQ, I'll do a 1.2, and it kind of goes like that. And I'll sort of go too far. I'll bounce stuff. I'll listen back to it, and I'll be like, oh, I was too confident. I went too far. It was better before. And so I can go back, and I'm not a power Ableton user, but I feel like people don't use the browser enough. You can go into your
How do you mean?
Like if you do save your project differently each time, you can go back and open up in your current project all the different versions and open up each track. And you can so if, let's say, I don't know, like I have like a hi-hat and I messed it up, I can go back 3 versions and pull that in, drag that track in, and it's the old version. So that's, or you could.
So you mean like you can pull the old file, like old audio files you've recorded in previous versions? You can just grab those from the browser, you're saying, and like use. Okay.
Yeah, and I guess you could grab any audio from there, but it, especially when you're working on a project for a really long time, the way that I usually am, and it's sort of like a painting where it's changing each time I come into the studio. You can only do so much before you've changed the whole thing. And the music I make, they're not songs. They're more like abstractions.
Yeah.
Or like a landscape.
Well, it's kind of like maybe you're kind of in a visual art, as a painter, maybe you're kind of painting. You said you don't paint anymore really, or pursued it after college, but I feel like maybe there's some similarities there.
There's definitely,
especially working alone and kind of layering things maybe, or I don't know, like you would layer color or something. Or
absolutely, yeah. I think I can run pretty deep with the analogies, like of the studio work, and especially with multi-tracked audio, it is layered, and you do layer a painting even if you only go so far.
Yeah.
That's so interesting to me that you like iterate on the versions and stuff. Like I feel like that would drive me insane. Like I've heard like
Seem like an organized person.
it's like I think electronic musician John Hopkins. He's like the opposite. He's like save destructively. Like if you make progress, just save over it and like never go back. And so it's always interesting hearing like the different perspectives of like, no, like I need to be able to go back in case I need to like correct. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's made a lot more music than me. So
everyone's got their own process.
I think he knows how to make music a lot.
He's like, I think he's like a classical trained dude, right? He's like a pianist and everything. So
I think he had a record that came out around the Slasher Flicks time. That's really terrific.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Immunity or something? Maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. That one's really good. Yeah.
Is there a timeline for this record or this music? You said you're probably self-releasing it, and there's going to be a physical release.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be physical. I'm debating whether or not there's going to be anything else, but
oh, cool.
But for sure physical. And yeah, I just need to finalize, a couple more of the mixes. Me and my wife had a child recently.
Same. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're both dads. We're both dads
really?
up in here.
Nice.
Yeah.
So he's 7.5 months.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's like you, Justin, right? You're like under a year still. Or
my kid just hit a year.
Congrats to Wes.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Happy birthday. So that really, I was like, I'm going to get this done right now.
Yeah. That'll motivate you for sure.
And that it's happening slowly. I was going into this studio in DC called Tonal Park with an engineer named Mike Patillo, and we were mixing them one by one. We got more than halfway, and then, I got crazy busy.
Yeah,
so
that'll happen.
The rest, I might have to mix the rest just at home, but
maybe this year it'll come out though, or early next year. Or
I think, let's see, early next year is my guess, because I think the turnaround with getting records made, it's faster now, but it's not fast.
Right.
Yeah.
Sick. And it's just going to be under Jeremy Hyman.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Tight.
And titles aren't there yet either, and artwork needs to be done.
Yeah, the song titles currently are very Aphex Twinny.
Love it.
Hyper literal like file names.
Yeah.
Well, tight, man. Yeah, definitely let us know when it's coming out, and we'll put on the listeners to check it out for sure.
Oh, that'd be terrific. Thank you.
So Slasher Flicks, we cool to get into that a little bit.
I think we're there. I think we've arrived.
Sweet. I love this record, man. So yeah, I saw you guys at the Echo. I'm pretty sure it was before the record was out, but I remember going and not really knowing what to expect. I mean, I knew it was like sort of like a power trio, indie super group. Like I knew Angel and Avey, but yeah, incredible show, so energetic. And I think one of the great things about this record is like, there's a big universe of like Animal Collective music and various members playing with other members. But this was like sort of the first time you heard Dave in this new context with like other musicians outside the band. It's like Dave with like a different drummer with a totally different feel, and then like crazy synth bass all over. So it's like you hear this songwriter in this totally new context, which is one of the things that's, I think, so fun about it. But yeah, I guess maybe we could just pick up, like, Dave talks to you, hey, I want to put together a power trio. Like, what's your reaction at that point? Are you like, are you down? Are you like, not sure?
Oh yeah, man,
like,
I'm pumped. I'm like,
yeah,
I'm a huge Animal Collective fan at that point.
Nice.
I knew their music super well.
And are you from Baltimore originally, or is that's just your home base kind of now? Okay.
I'm from here. Yeah. I grew up in a place
gotcha.
called Reisterstown, Maryland, but yeah.
Cool.
Gotcha.
Those guys I think we're like 7 years apart in age, something like that. Enough that we didn't interact when we were young. But like, I think me and Brian have talked about this. His brother had drum lessons, maybe with the same teacher, this guy Larry Levy, that I learned drums from.
Oh, nice.
And so there's it's possible that he dropped off his younger brother, and I was coming out.
Yeah.
There's like it could have been, but yeah, that we didn't know each other at the time.
Nice. But so he asks you and you're amped. You're like,
yeah, I'm psyched. And I was definitely nervous too, because we hadn't played together. I mean, the intention was to do this show later in the year, but I had to like do it, learn the stuff. And I didn't even know this stuff. I think he sent the demos in like February, and I think we were planning to get together for the first time in March or May. And so I was also touring all the time with Dan. Like I was on tour maybe 4 months or 5 months out of that stretch of time. So there wasn't a ton of time for me to sit with this stuff. But I remember hearing the demos, and it was drum machine. I mean, the songs were fleshed out. Like if you heard the demos, it sounds like the songs on the record. They're pretty.
So he just released the Little Fang demo Dave did on a Bandcamp benefit thing for Asheville area relief efforts.
Yes.
And he put out Little Fang demo. Did you hear it, Justin? Or I know Jeremy's heard it, obviously, but
I did not get to hear it. How does it sound?
It's great. It's great. I mean, I was just listening to it earlier today on Bandcamp, but yeah, I mean, like you said, Jeremy, it's like super fleshed out. It's like he's got a drum machine and bass, and there's like crazy like arpeggiations, like 16th note arpeggiations everywhere. It's really cool though. But,
yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
So he had like the whole record demoed out basically.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Quick aside about that. If you know anyone in Western North Carolina, like give them a call and just see how they're doing.
Oh yeah.
And
sure.
just listen. 'Cause I hadn't talked to Dave in a little while, and I called him a week or two ago, and I knew what was going on, but I didn't know the extent, and it's pretty heavy.
It's insane. We're going to point to links and all that. 'Cause it's like, we can't talk about Dave's records without also acknowledging the current situation that him and his community are in. So
that's cool that you're doing that. Yeah. It's hard to hear. And it's also hard 'cause you don't know how to help. I mean,
yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, please.
No, I was just going to ask, what comes to mind kind of playing with Angel and Dave, in those days, or, what was that like for you kind of coming into this world?
They were so great to play with. They're both such incredible musicians. And I knew, but I didn't know. You just have to experience people, to really get it. I mean, the way Dave sings and the way he writes, just beyond, I mean,
yeah.
And watching him and Angel, work out melody, vocal lines and talking about pitch. I'm just like, I'm just over here with a couple of sticks.
I mean,
I went out there. So I heard these demos, and they had these really sparse drum machine rhythms. And I was like, I could play these, but they're not going to sound this way on a drum kit. They're going to sound, especially playing with Dan for so many years, it does take some kind of tweaking to get things to feel rigid if you want that feel. It's like the opposite of like learning how to play loose.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure, because he was pretty vague about it, other than that was like maybe the template I should work off of. So, if we rented a rehearsal space, like I don't know if it's just outside of Atwater Village. I think it was called like ABC or something.
Yeah, I know that place well.
You do? we went there for like.
So did you move to LA like for this period, or were were you here already? No, just here to
I would
rehearse
fly out and stay at their house, and
Nice.
we'd rehearse all day, and we'd go home and listen to the Zoom recorder, and do it again.
The dream.
It was really special it was a really fun time. And I did listen back to some of that stuff, leading up to this, and we really did like have to work it out. I mean, even though the demos are so solid, it's not the same as with the dynamics between, it's so complex when you put 3 people in a room. So
Yeah.
like not only the sounds, Dave is really particular about sound, of course. So we're tweaking the actual timbre and the texture of the sound. And for me, I'm trying to wrap my head around the drums. And as you guys know, Animal Collective they have terrific rhythmic sense, but it's pretty rare that there's like a snare on the 2 and 4. And
Totally.
I just remember going in and being like, don't play the snare on the 2 and 4. Just don't do it. and I was, it wasn't that hard, but it's difficult. It's difficult when I've basically been in like punk bands and classic rock bands all my life. Ponytail's a classic rock band, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's in your blood. Yeah.
Yeah. We would listen to Fleetwood Mac and like, like the Police and stuff. But so trying to work those out and get those rhythms like grooving in the way that was nodding to the demos, but also kind of adding the rest of the parts. Like some of them the drum machine parts were super monotonous. Like I can give you an example. Right. There's this song called The Outlaw, and
banger,
which is one of my favorite songs. I was so confused by it at the beginning, but the more I listened to it, the more I was like, oh my God, this song is incredible.
Yeah.
But it has this super rigid kind of hi-hat pattern. And that was the demo. It was just, just the whole song. And basically had to, flesh it out from there. And each song was kind of like that.
That song's a great example because it's like, it's a very kind of like almost marching beat, but like I love the embellishments and like the little like hi-hat thing is really great. Yeah. And the little, the organ line. That's a great track. That's interesting because like on the one hand, it's like he did have a power trio thing in mind. So it's like he does want, I'm sure like, even though it was vague, I mean, it's really good you didn't just stick to these rigid, like, drum machine patterns because it's, like, there's space to fill, and, like, you filled it.
That's
with fills.
I'll fill it up. Yeah, if you let me.
And most of these shows are, I didn't get to check you guys on this during this era, and I regret it because I will admit I did not give Slasher Flicks the time it deserved at the time, but it has really grown on me, and I love the energy of it. Very explosive. Your drumming fucking rules. Was there like the live shows? Was everything pretty much composed, or were you guys kind of going out there a little bit, or improvising at all? Or
I think there were things that like bled over from Dave's preferences in general, like to not stop in between songs. Nice. That was definitely sort of new to me, and maybe Angel too. So learning to sort of navigate between two songs was definitely different in the live show, and learning to do that and kind of messing around with stuff. We talked about triggers earlier. Like I had like an MPC at the touring phase, where I had like loops I could kind of guide between songs that were kind of abstract, not 100% far off from what I still do. And within the songs themselves, the structure kind of always stayed the same, but there are a couple parts like in Your Card. There's a song called Your Card, and there's like a jam, basically open-ended jam, and I'm sure it was pretty radically different every night, especially when we got deeper into the tour. You just sort of stretch out and get weirder.
Nice.
So much we could talk about this record. Little Fang is like, it's been on my mind because it's like Halloween time, but I feel like it's like,
yeah,
in my mind it is, but in the general public, I feel like it needs to be like canonized in the like Halloween, party soundtrack, like pantheon. Like it's like modern day, like Monster Mash. And I mean that with the utmost respect.
It's awesome.
Probably like the poppiest song that, at least at that point, maybe Dave had put out.
It's an outlier for the record too, I feel like.
Yeah,
I remember in a good way. It actually, I was thinking the other day, listening to it, and it reminds me a lot of one particular Lindsey Buckingham record. I don't know if you guys are Lindsey Buckingham fans, but there's a song called Go Insane that is just like very similar. Anyway, I digress, but
I haven't heard it, but I'll check it out.
Yeah, the song Go Insane
sounds like Little Fang.
It's got heavy Little Fang vibe. It's like from like 1984. It's very kind of absurdist, very 1980s. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point about it being like an outlier track.
Yeah, it's definitely an outlier. I think he brought it. We had learned the initial batch of songs, and he brought 3 more, and that was one of them. I think there was Word of Mouth, Little Fang, and maybe Catchy.
Okay.
I think those were, he was like, I have these other 3, and they were all so good. And again, nice. Dave just like, casually bringing in 3 incredible songs right at the end. But yeah, Little Fang it definitely stood out as being 12-string guitar, just such a different sound. And it kind of, like, I wasn't sure what to think about it. I liked it, but I did not understand it in terms of the record, maybe until the record was done. It really rounds out that group of songs and kind of shows a different side. But, and to your point, I think there is some of that, like, this is a Halloween or like a spooky song, like, to a T. And
totally
those types of songs, I know Dave really likes those types of songs. Like, I think we did a cover. The last show we ever played was a Halloween show, and we did a Screamin' Lord Sutch cover, the song Jack the Ripper. It's a really good Halloween song, if you haven't heard that one.
Nice. Wow. I'm so glad your last show was on Halloween. It's fantastic. Maybe not last show ever, though, because, due for a reunion at some point,
It's crazy. It was 10 years ago when the record came
Enter
out.
the Slasher House Part 2. 10 years, yeah, wow. That's a solid decade. That's
10 and a half years now, I think, since the record came out.
Yeah, we're still in there being spatchcocked by, the devil himself.
Spatchcock.
So what do you think? What do you think are the odds of enter the Slasher House again?
I don't know. It could definitely happen. I wouldn't put it past anything. I mean, anything. I think it's like that band rips, and I think it is.
Yeah. Yes, it does, dude.
It would be very fun if it does happen. It would be for a good reason, I'm sure.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, Angel and Dave's voices together, really, really awesome. Excellent band. Justin, were you going to say something?
I was going to actually transition into Jeremy playing with the band, if that's cool. I did a little research, and I could be wrong, Jeremy, but aside from former Police Academy actor and special effects voice artist Michael Winslow, I think you're the only one to play with Animal Collective as billed.
Really?
I think so. As the band Animal Collective, I think other members have maybe played with other artists.
Yeah, you have the distinct honor.
Yeah, what was that like? What was it like entering? I mean, because it seems like the Animal Collective guys have this very kind of specific language, and they really only like seem to have that they can only like speak with each other, and it seems pretty special when they let somebody else in to play, and that was you. And yeah, what was that like? Because the Painting With tour was awesome. Definitely caught a few shows of those, and they seem like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's no secret that record is controversial amongst the fandom, but what's also basically unanimous is that the Painting With tour was incredible. And
oh yeah, let's be clear. It was the media elites that did not like Painting With. Okay, it's not us. We're for the people over here.
Oh, of course, always. There are no bad records, but your drumming on that tour is definitely hugely adored by the fans. There's a great Painting With live compilation. I think it's called Painting Live on YouTube, where a fan combined live recordings from the Painting With tour with EP stuff.
Oh, really?
But for anyone looking to listen to some Painting With live featuring Jeremy Hyman's drumming, yeah, there's a great YouTube that we'll link. But yeah, so just repeat Justin's question. Since I interrupted you before you can answer it, what was that like joining for that tour and yeah, being entering the ANCO?
Yeah, it was incredible. I'm trying to think of the timeline. I had just moved to New York, so I did move to LA during the Slasher Flicks time period. Found it quite difficult to be there with my bicycle and and trying
and a million cars.
To this day, I mean, this speaks to my feeling about LA. To this day, I feel like if I go there and I run into someone, they're like, "How are you?" You're like, they think I still live there. That's how. It's been 10 years. That's how LA feels to me. I'm like, you just might never see someone again.
Yeah.
People just in the clouds, oh yeah.
That's hilarious.
You're still here.
Yeah,
somewhere.
But no, I did have a good time there, but it was a lonely period, and it was everyone would say, oh, it takes 3 to 6 years to get used to it, and I was like, I don't have that. I don't have that time. So
life is short, yo.
Yeah, a friend of mine had a place that opened up in New York. Moved there. I'd been there I guess I had actually been there for almost a year, and I was touring again with Dan. Finally starting to make my own music. And then towards the end of the year, I think we had just done this Miley Cyrus tour.
Wow.
And right around that time, I got a message from Dave.
Wait, you drummed with Miley Cyrus?
No, Dan Deacon opened up for Miley Cyrus. and
Tight.
me and Dan.
What?
It was just me and Dan, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he opened. Is that not bizarre to you, Justin? That Dan Deacon opened for Miley Cyrus?
I feel like I read that and I memory hold that one, but that's fucking awesome. Hell yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we toured with her
sick.
for like 2 weeks. It was
Nice.
It was pretty an unusual experience because we were still just like in a school bus sleeping on it in the middle of like the winter, freezing.
And she's on like a private jet or something.
She's just a Dan fan?
Her backing band was the Flaming Lips for that tour. And
this all happened, huh? Wow.
this all happened, yeah.
Okay.
Miley Cyrus and her
Damn.
dead pets.
I've been sleeping on Miley.
It was a really crazy show. And she's incredible.
Nice.
Like we're going off on a tangent here. We don't need to go here.
Okay.
But yeah,
We're going to go there.
I mean, she,
Let's do it.
I don't know where she had to go to like a different city or country every night. So she would like do the show and have to leave. You know, I mean, this is like the type of schedule someone like that has. It's no joke. Blows my mind that someone can handle that kind of life. But she played a great show every night. And I mean, it was a Miley Cyrus show, 100%.
It's a Miley show.
Like,
okay, this is the glitter smear on the face album cover. I remember this a little bit now. Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, I think I was on that tour and Dave's like, "Hey, do you want to play drums?"
And you're like, "Nah, bro, I'm with Miley Cyrus right now. I'm not joining your tour."
I'm past your level, bro.
You're like, "Wait, who is this? Dave who?"
First of all, get in touch with my people, and then they'll get back to you. Yeah.
I think I was like, terrific. Something else to do.
Yeah.
No, I was like, oh my God, this is great. And I don't know. I don't quite remember how it was like, how the ask happened, but I think it was explained what the record sounded like. I was pretty much exclusively like listening to quantized music. So it seemed like a great time to jump into a record like that anyway. And it just worked out really well. I do remember they asked me like 2 weeks before rehearsal started or something like that. And
wow.
And I was just like walking around New York, like with headphones on, just like listening to this record, to Painting With on repeat, just trying to get the songs in me. I'm not even close to a session musician or like a drummer for hire. I mean, hire me, but find out. But you know, I need some time, and I can't just memorize a song, like write down the,
especially an Animal Collective record. Like that's, yeah.
I do think that most people, even some much better drummers than me, would need to work it out, or at least the band wouldn't be happy with what they would come up with. You kind of need to work with them.
Yeah.
So they were rehearsing in DC, which was, pretty easy for me because I was already back on the East Coast. I think we rented an apartment in DC. Brian is there, and we would just drive to rehearsals every day. And this is again, like the sound of that record is very tight and very sequency, just
not loose,
no room, like very unusual percussion sounds, very spatial, but definitely not a drum kit. So that I was like, I don't know what you guys want me to do. I mean, I get I'll learn the parts, but like, should this sound like? And
they asked you because it would be hard for them to perform those songs live because of the way Noah and Dave were singing. Is that accurate? Or
I think that maybe Noah was feeling like it would be too hard to sing.
Yeah, right.
Or I don't know. Maybe he just didn't feel it. He wanted to play the bass. I know he played all the bass parts.
Oh,
and
cool.
He was doing a lot of the sequencing
on like an OP1, right?
An OP1 was the bass, and Octatrack was like. So I guess I don't know why they asked me. I don't have an answer for that question.
Oh, good.
I'm so glad they did. Because I had a really great time. And I think like, I was like, I don't know what you guys want me to do. I mean, but I was like, should it be an electronic drum set? And they were like, maybe. So we bought an electronic drum kit, like a Roland V drum kit. I set it up and I was like playing it. And I was like, this is really weird. And
yeah, dude.
And
that's like the woven. It's like the
yeah.
Isn't that like the woven heads, like super bouncy?
And again, this was my idea. I was like, maybe this, and they were like, sure. And they, it came like 2 days later, and I set it up, and I was like, I'm sorry, I think we should return this. And I started building the kit in different ways. Oh, like there's this. Actually, I have it. They use this drum on the record called a caixa. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's a Brazilian snare drum. It's on it all over it. Any kind of pop snare sound is that. And it's an unusual snare because the snares are pressed up against the head. I think it's actually the snares are on the batter side normally. But
weird. I
have this snare drum. I'll show it to you. This is my Avey. This is the Avey snare. Like, I use this with Slasher Flicks too, because Dave is always looking for like a really, like it. These aren't snare wires. This is like, what's it called? Like bracelet cord. It's non-memory forming steel wire. So it has this like, it's just very tight. And very dead. So I went back to Baltimore and I got that, and I was like, okay, this is starting to work. I think I decided I need to trigger the bass drum, and kind of built the kit up and started just, trying to make it feel as tight as possible. And after like 2 weeks of rehearsal, I think we took a break, and maybe there was like 3 days of rehearsal before the first show in Philly.
So one of my big regrets is missing that tour. But Justin, you saw the LA show, I think, right? The Fonda.
Yeah, I bought the ticket while I was still living on the East Coast as a reason not to move back home. So yeah, I saw I think it was in February 16 at the Fonda. One of the dates.
That was like right at the beginning. That was like the first leg of the tour.
Okay, right on. Yeah,
Rat King opened up.
Oh yeah, yep. I forgot about those. Yeah, that was great. I actually made my best friends in LA. I met that night at that show. We just ended up being best friends. Still really good friends
together.
Oh, that's so cool.
And then I saw you guys in the next year in Orange County at the Observatory.
Oh, that was pretty ripping, that show.
Yeah, it was cool. It seemed like there were younger fans there, there were teenagers. That was cool.
It's the Observatory for you.
That's like the Burbs, right? Orange
County.
County.
Yeah. It's like Orange County. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean those shows are great. A lot of fun. Did it feel different for you night to night, or the beginning of the tour, compared to how it ended? Do you feel like you guys cover a lot of territory, or was it kind of more composed in the end? Or
I think it was a lot looser at the end. At the beginning, the first few shows, I was pretty nervous.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of music to ingest and to put into my body.
And not only painting with tracks, but other songs they were touring, or that basically none of which have trap kit setups.
Right. Yeah, and some of them are pretty complex. I was using this thing called a drum cat. It kind of looks like Mickey Mouse, but it has a bunch of different pads. This is maybe back to our sensory percussion thing. This thing is from the late 90s, and it's a really ingenious device, but it's very simple. It basically triggers really clean MIDI. It's also, they're called force sensitive resistors, so it won't fire unless you actually put pressure in it. So that was sort of part of the kit, and putting all those sounds that I couldn't get, you can't make some of those sounds with a real drum. So a lot of those I would put on that pad. I was pretty insistent about playing all of the percussion. I'd say most of it was coming from me. There were a couple nonstop shaker type things that are pretty obviously sequenced that Noah would control. But I really wanted to just hit as much of the essence of the record as I could. So so getting the coordination with that was pretty nerve wracking at first. Yeah. But anyway, that stuff, it did get looser over time. Like you're back to your question, like the kind of the between song moments became sort of, I think for all of us, the star of the show. I think we would, by the second or third leg of the tour, because they tour like maybe like 3 weeks at a time, door to door for family purposes, as you guys know. But like once we got deeper into it, I mean, playing the songs and not, glitching out was pretty easy. And then the really interesting part was how to get from one side to the other. And I think,
that's some of the best magic of that band and especially that tour for sure. Sorry to cut in.
Oh no, of course. And I was at the time when I was living in New York and basically going out to clubs as often as I could. And I think one of the main draws for me was how DJs get from one song to the other. I mean, there's just these magic moments. Composed songs are incredible, and there's so much goes into making work. But when you add this like extra chaotic element where two songs are overlapping, it's just these magic, crazy things can happen. And I think that was a big part of that live experience for me.
And
that's some of the most magical.
I agree. And when you get that first pang of what is the next song, and it kind of clicks like, oh, this is that. That's something that you get with Animal Collective that I really love, and kind of psychedelic music. And
I think they're they do it at such a high level.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I had a really good time.
This has been awesome. Could chat for another hour, I'm sure, but this has been sick, man. Thanks so much for taking time. I really appreciate it. And we're huge fans, and keep doing your thing, dude. We love it.
Likewise.
We love it.
The podcast is sick.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. All right, take care.
See you, Jeremy.
Bye. Good to meet you guys.
Thanks for hanging out, y'all. Thanks again to Jeremy for taking the time to join us. Be sure to check out Avey Tare's Bandcamp for links to Asheville area hurricane relief. We'll put links in the description as well. And if you're enjoying this show, we've got more stuff on our Patreon, including exclusive episodes, longer episodes, early episode releases. You can also rate and review, like and subscribe, all that. Tell a friend. And until next time, take it easy.
Bonefish.